Okay, Mom, so I do have some questions for you. I want to know about your emotional development throughout your lifespan. The first question I have for you, I really want to know what you consider as happiness.
To me, happiness is knowing that, especially right now, that my family is well taken care of and happy and safe. And as I look back through the years, knowing that I did the best I could, everything that happened, and that's all that you can be happy about, is that you did your best.
Yeah, that's true. I would completely agree with that. It is important to give everything your all and make sure that, happiness does result from that. Coming from that, what do you think emotional development is?
I think emotional development is when you think back as a child and you become a teenager and grow up and either go to college or get married, all the things that you do. When you are able to handle everything that happens to you, the problems, the things that are hard, and if you handle them the best you can and you feel good about what you've done and how things worked out, then I think that's what emotional happiness is to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's something that you've always taught us, is just to try our best and be happy with whatever the result is. So what do you think has been the biggest influence on your emotional development throughout your life? Aside from me, of course.
Well, I think that the way I was raised and the things that are important to me, like always trying to do what I believe is right and teaching my children to do things that are right and to love them even if they make mistakes, but to help them, to overcome, and to help them find happiness also.
Okay. So are there any situations in particular that have influenced you emotionally or changed you as a person?
Well, I think that when you, say for instance, when you first get married, you think everything is going to be easy and rosy, and when you find out that it's not, and you're able to work through them with your spouse, and as children come along, all the things that happen in your life that help you grow and develop, and when you look back, you feel satisfied that you were able to accomplish things that you wanted, and your family turned out great, and you just are happy.
So, what do you think is the biggest life lesson you have learned from all of your experiences raising your kids and, some of the other things that we've talked about? What do you think has been the biggest life lesson you've learned, and how did it affect your development?
Well, looking back, I think the one thing that I could have done better would to not get so upset about things that happened, to just try to stay calm and work through them and figure out how to solve them. And I think that was the hardest thing for me, was just not stressing about things, to take them as they come and roll with the punches, and I wish I could have done that better.
Well, I think that's interesting, because I do remember there would be times that you would be stressed out, but for the most part, I don't ever remember you freaking out. You'd be like, you'd be like completely calm, and when you'd get mad, we would run and hide, but I don't ever remember you being like over the top or anything. I always remember you being a very calming spirit, so that's kind of interesting that you said that. So do you think, based off of going off of times now, do you think people express themselves differently emotionally than when you were younger? Like, given the different avenues that people have now, social media and that kind of thing, do you think it's more acceptable to express yourself emotionally, or do you think just basically what are the differences now between when you were young?
Well, cell phones hadn't even been invented, I don't think, but there was no texting, anything like that, and if we wanted to convey a feeling or something, we had to talk and tell people how we felt and make conversation. Where now it's so easy just to do a text message and 1 or 2 sentences, and that's what you say to communicate. You don't take the time to really express how you feel, and to just send like a text message and you're done in just a couple sentences. And you don't have to take all the time to express your love and your concern, and I think that to me, that's one of the biggest changes, because I remember spending a lot of time talking to my family and on the telephone, and now that rarely happens.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like to talk on the phone. I'd much rather send a quick text message, and I have noticed that you've gotten more. You text more. And when you do text, you'll send me like a 5-page text message, which probably should have been an email or a phone call, but it'll be literally like 5 or 6 different text messages.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been easier to just pick up the phone and call me, but people don't even send thank you cards anymore. Like I'll send like a thank text or something. So it's a lot. I agree with you. I think it's a lot more impersonal now than it used to be.
Yeah, it is a lot more impersonal. And to me, it's kind of sad, because when you're like extended family, so much of the time you don't even get to hear from them anymore.
Yeah, I agree. But then I also think, like on the other side of that, I think people will have a bad day and they could get online and they're protected by this veil of anonymity, and they could get on there and just completely destroy somebody, and they don't ever have to face the consequences because they can do it, like I was saying, behind the veil of anonymity. So
That's true.
It's both ends of the spectrum. It's either too impersonal or it's so over the top, but then again they're protected by the veil of secrecy.
Yeah, that's right.
Goes both ways. So then I just have a couple more questions. Being as you've raised as many kids as you have, do you think you've grown more now raising your own kids, or grown now from when you were raising your own kids, or when you were being able to see your children have their kids and watching us raise our kids, so you being able to sit back and just be the grandma?
Yeah, I like sitting back and being the grandma. But yeah, I can, as I look back and see, it seems like all you remember, though, are the things you wish you wouldn't have said or done. And it's easy to think of things you wished you would have done differently, but as I see my own kids with their kids, raising their own kids, sometimes I want to say, don't do that, don't say that. I want you to be perfect, and that's not possible. All you can do, just like I did, was try to do the best you could and love your kids no matter what they did, but try to teach them and help them, because I think when you're doing the things you're supposed to do, or that you think you're supposed to do, you're certainly a lot happier, and you're not worrying and stressing, and it's just easier to, as I see my kids doing that, I wish that I could just say, no, don't do that, don't say that. But just like I had to, you have to learn yourself what works for your kids, and what works for mine probably may not work for yours. 'Cause
Yeah,
so
and I
much
think
has
times are
changed.
also different now. We do know a little bit more, and I know that there are things that I do with my kids that I'll catch myself and I'll be like, damn, that sounded like my mom or my dad, and I'll be like, I never want to say that again. Not like it was bad or anything, but it's just like you said, there's little things that stick out into your mind, and you're like, I remember how that made me feel when that was said to me.
Yeah.
So I try not to. Or, you know, then at the same time, I'm like, I want to be more like my mom because I know how much you loved us, and that no matter what, at the end of the day, I know how much you loved us, and that was all that I could ask for was a parent who actually did love me unconditionally, and I want to be that for my kids. So I think being able to take those experiences and learn from them, that's something that I have learned from you, and Dad as well. Like, there's things that I don't want to do with my kids, but I also know a little bit more. Like, there's more advances in, you know, psychological things and stuff like that we know now that you didn't know back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I do think that, you know, I've taken things that you guys have done, and I want to do more of things that you have done, and, of course, there's things that I don't want to do. So... going off of that, what advice do you give to a new parent about raising emotionally healthy kids?
I think that the number one thing would be just loving them. Just loving them, and just from experience, trying not to, no matter what your child does, to make them not feel that they're not loved. That no matter what they do or what you do, if you can just let them know that no matter what happens, that you still love them. And I think that is the most important, is to let your kids know that you love them.
Yeah.
You always will.
I agree. I think when you have that firm background and that firm or that stability, you are more free to experiment and know that if you do make a mistake, you're not going to, like, you know, lose your parents. So
yeah, that's right.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you, Mom. I love you.
I love you too. You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.